So we're here today in the Heritage House Museum. It's the 19th of February. And with our couple today, it's a return match, so to speak, that we were here a couple of weeks ago. So here we are again today because there's, you guys have great background in Coquitlam, so we'd really like to hear some more. So what I'm going to start off by doing is, let's talk about the early days. So I think you were just telling me a little while ago, you both came to the area when you were little tiny kids.
Yep.
So you basically became neighborhood families. And as I recall, 6 children, 3 children. So one fairly big family, one I guess not so big. And what I'd like to start off by talking about today is, if you think when you were kids, which would have been, I guess we're talking now, this is what, late 40s, something like that?
Yeah.
40s when you were kids. Thinking about then, what sort of place was Coquitlam in those days?
Well,
Bush, a lot of bush.
A lot of bush, yeah.
well,
I trails.
Yeah.
I remember Coquitlam, in the early 40s. You know, when the war started was 39. I was 6 years old,
Yeah.
and it was just like it was forest.
Yeah.
They used
And anyways, when we played hide and go seek, as I said before, we'd go and climb big 150-foot fir trees and hide in there and stuff, make bow and arrows and slingshots and stuff.
Fascinating.
Oh yeah, and there was bears and cougars. In fact, they called me the Cougar Kid. No kidding, because
You were the Cougar Kid, right?
well, what happened is I used to like going to the hockey games in New Westminster.
Yeah.
And I had to walk, of course. There's no buses at that. The closest bus was on North Road. And I'd walk from the corner by myself, corner of Austinville Mountain down to North Road, catch the bus to Queen, and they'd drop you off at the Patella Bridge on Columbia Street. I'd walk up to the Queen's Park, see the game, and the last bus was 11 o'clock. If you missed that, you had it. And then I'd get off at North Road. And as I was walking up North Road one time, up Austin, they had this street light on a telephone pole, and I looks up and I saw these eyes like that, cougar eyes.
And this is up on North Road, you say?
Yeah, on Austin. And I could see it was, just like, and so I told everybody, and then they nicknamed me the Cougar Kid.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Goodness me, that's quite a difference from now, eh?
Oh, and when they were opening the lots, when they started to develop it, and $150 for a lot, that's all they wanted.
And that was a lot on North Road?
No, in Coquitlam, right across from Austin, all over.
Oh, around Austin, okay. $150 for a
Yeah,
lot.
and I bought a lot. I bought it for $400 right across a corner lot from the church by the school on Marmon.
Yeah?
Yeah,
By United Church.
yeah, I'm 20 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
For a little context, how much work would you have to do to get $400 in those days?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, see, I worked summers when I was going to school. I worked summers at the Pacific Veneer and weekends, and you'd make pretty good money, and money seemed to be a problem.
Yeah.
And I mean, in relation to now, it's a heck of a lot cheaper, a $400 lot, even though the money you made wasn't much.
So I think what you're saying then, in housing in those days was not a big deal.
No.
Anybody could have a house.
No, you'd have to build it though, because there's none to buy, because
Sure.
you have to build your own.
Sure, but I mean, this was a time, I guess, then, where everybody had a single-family home. I
Yeah,
guess.
and you know what's interesting? My dad, he worked at Fraser Mills for 38 years, and what he did, he told me, of course I don't remember this when I was small, he told me his house, he started to build a house right away, he said, because he ordered all the lumber from the mill,
Yeah.
and they had to keep him on there to hire him so he'd pay for the lumber. Get it? That's why he got it all. I did. That's what he told me.
Nice story.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool story. And everybody built their own houses, and they all had a basement. But you know, one of the funny ones, you know, during the war, they had, I'm not sure if too many people remember this, but they had the local rangers. It was called the Rangers.
Yeah.
And what they would do, they were just a local force in case we were invaded by somebody. They're called the Rangers. And what they would do, they would go over to the bottom of the old practice fairway in the golf club every once or twice a week, and they would say, have a maneuver, okay? And I remember this one time when us little kids, and me and my other couple of friends, we'd know when they were there, and they'd all get together, and they'd say, tonight we're going to capture the school. Okay, you know, that was one of the deals, you know, so
Yeah.
and they put these flares and smoke bombs in them, all in the bush, and of course we would go and spread them all over. But I remember this one guy, they had these Enfield rifles, and this house right across from us, they built the basement, but the basement it was open, and they lived in the top. And I'm following this one guy, and he's going in the basement with his big gun, and the guy my friend had a police dog in there. And I thought, holy Christ, he's going in there. So, and as soon as he gets in, the police dog attacked him. He runs out, throws his rifle. I knew the dog. So I got the rifle, and I'm running in. Sir, here's your rifle, sir. Funny, I remember that. Say that.
That's an interesting time.
Oh,
you had
and
when you were a kid.
that's true. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And what you'd have to do, they would, your headlights, you'd have to put masking tape or whatever, and you just have a little slit.
This is World War II you're talking
Yeah.
about. Right.
And
It was
and
the
my
blackout.
dad, because he had to look after the corner of Austinville Mountain to make sure everybody, when they had the air raids, like, you know, a simulation, they'd have the air raid warning going, and everybody have to make sure.
They never had any air raids in Coquitlam in World War II, did they?
Pardon?
They did have air raids?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, old
yeah.
practice,
practice ones. Oh,
old
I'm
practice.
sorry.
But then there was one time that
Yeah.
apparently there was some shells hit Vancouver Island or something, they were saying, by the Jap.
Japanese
I'm not sure, but
submarine.
yeah. So that was cool.
They had to black out the houses.
And you know what? My mom was a nurse. Well, everybody did something, but the Red Cross, what they called it. And anyways, what they would do, they would gather once a week in the gymnasium of this Coquitlam school, where Rona is now. And they would, and I volunteered. Of course, my mom helped me. I was just looking, and I would run out into the field and pretend I was shot. Okay. And I would lay down, and they'd say, "Oh, he's got a broken arm. We've got this and that." So they'd bandage me all up, and then they'd bring me in a stretcher, and then they evaluate how good the ladies did on me as a victim. But you know why I did it? Because they'd give me all the ice cream I could eat. That's no kidding.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a lot of fun when you were a kid. What were the cougars and the ice cream and the...
You know, another thing is, before I was old enough to go to grade 1, they didn't have kindergarten then. I was, 4 or 5. You'd have to go to school when you were 6 years old. They gave Mom cocoa for the kids at school. And what she would do, she would get this big aluminum pot and make cocoa with it, and then she'd carry it to school, a couple of buckets of it, and I would pour it into the kids' cups so they could have their cocoa, free cocoa. Yeah. And also my mom during the war, she knitted scarves for the sailors. She'd get free yarn, and big wide 6 foot high scarves for the and and socks. Yeah, she just knit.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know.
Oh yeah,
guys
I
really-
remember all that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking of these very, very powerful memories of World War II when you were kids.
Oh, you know what? Okay, you know World War II. You know the Columbian Theater in New York. You don't know the Columbian Theater. The Edison was that was the oldest theater, and then the Columbian was a kind of a little high standard. Anyways, you know how you get into a show by throwing just a piece of small pot or a piece of aluminum into a bin. They let you in the show free, and they used the aluminum, of course, in the war effort to build airplanes and that.
Oh, right, the scrap.
Yeah, free. And we used to go up to the dumps. They had two big, huge dumps in the ravines. There were two big ravines up. One was by Gatensbury, and the other one was up further. And we used to go there and gather all the pots up, you know, and so we could have them ready to go to the show. And we used to shoot the bears down there with our slingshots we made because they couldn't climb up because they would slip on the cans. I'm telling you, it was really cool. I remember all that.
Yeah.
You could shoot them down there. They'd come after you, but they couldn't go because I mean, there's nothing but cans and garbage.
To be clear, you're not recommending that for kids today, are you?
Oh God, no! Oh
I'm
God, no!
glad to
No,
hear it.
no, they'd have to get into a bin.
Uh,
But oh no, I'm telling you, it was fun.
so obviously it was fun. What with the Cougars and the Bears and the
Yeah.
Red Cross? Pretty
And
exciting.
did you know
time.
what? I guess I was about 13 or 14. We moved down Austin Road to the top of the golf course where you go down the hill in Austin.
Yep.
And anyways, my dad built a chicken house there. And we had 500 chickens.
500.
Yep. And you know what before we had the chickens, guess what? He built this long chicken house and we lived in it, all of us kids. And then he built a nice house. And then that's when we got the chickens, of course, after he built the house in front of the chicken coop. 500. Oh God, I remembered. And rabbits. I used to have a BB gun, a Red
Well, you
Ryder.
know what? Before we get off the chickens, I've got a question for you, right?
Yeah.
The question is, what did the 500 chickens smell like?
Well, they were cool, but they were cool, and of course we let.
Smell like?
Well, yeah, but you know what? And of course you eat them too, but I would grade the eggs with my mom and dad, and then anyways, what was this? Oh yeah, and we'd grade the eggs, and you know how you kill a chicken to eat?
Break the neck, right?
No, what I would do, I would get a chicken. Dad would pick it out because I'm smaller. I'd hold the neck.
Yeah.
You just chop it
Oh,
off.
just chop it, yeah.
And you know what? I remember this time. I hope you're not. Well, even if you are Jehovah,
No, I'm not squeamish. No.
you know what? One time, the Jehovah's were coming in the yard, and Dad cut the head off the chicken, and I usually held it until it stopped wiggling and all. I let it go. Well, the bloody thing's running around with no goddamn head on,
Oh, yeah.
chased the goddamn Jehovah's right out of the yard. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll run for quite a while, apparently, won't they, when the head's off?
Yeah. Oh, they will. Oh, they definitely will. They'll run a long ways with the head off. They just don't, then of course they'll collapse. But that was cool. You know how we take a bath? Aluminum tubs. We have a potbelly stove, and I still have one of them at home. I got the big
But
square.
you're not taking your bath in it now, right?
No, I got it at home though. I got that one at home. I got a big square one at home. And you know what we did for shoes? When you wore a hole in your shoes, you would go, you wouldn't tell your mom to buy a new pair because money was tough then. You'd get cardboard and you'd put cardboard in the bottom of your shoes. Big piece of cardboard, and boy, they felt so good. Look at this, I got a new piece of cardboard. And you could see it because it had holes in the bottom of your shoe. But that's what you would do. Cardboard in your shoes.
Didn't your dad repair your shoes?
Pardon? Huh? And I remember this one guy, Mr. Pobbs. In fact, that's who I bought that lot off. For some reason, occasionally, he had an old car, and he would have a cow
A what?
on a rope,
Cow on a rope, yeah.
and he would take it to New Westminster, I think, to sell it or something like that. And no kidding, he'd go very slow. A bloody cow on the back of a goddamn car on a rope.
A car.
Yeah,
Not a
yeah,
truck,
but
a car.
a long rope, say, 15 feet long with a cow.
So he was towing the cow.
Towing the
pulling.
goddamn, yeah, towing it, but he'd go very slow and he'd take it to town and he'd come
Wow.
back with, I guess he sold it or something. But you see, there was nothing in Coquitlam, nothing. Everything in New Westminster.
You had to walk
We-
them.
I remember we went to, there used to be a Safeway in New Westminster. A lot of people say there wasn't, but I know there was. It was right across from the Army and Navy now. I mean, that's years ago. And the Safeway, and the guy, I remember the manager, I used to go with my mom, because I was the youngest in the family. And the manager was Mr. Friend. I remember his name. You know why I remember his name? When I went with Mom, he'd give me all the chocolate bars I could eat. That's how I remember him. I remember him
Wow, that's
vividly. And yeah, that's and
Just keep those notes down for the moment. I was
you
gonna
know
ask
another
you
thing is
something
you
Yeah.
guess during the war,
here.
have you heard of cascara bark?
No.
Cascara bark, they give you as much as 35 cents a pound for cascara. And what they use it for some sort of some medicine. And there's a cascara tree. They almost look like a dogwood tree, but they're not. They're a cascara tree. And you'd go in the bush and search for them.
The whole family.
And I remember these people I went to school with, they had kind of a farm down, or farmland kind of down Marmot,
Yeah.
about
Down
a quarter of the way down Marmot. And I forget their names. And I'm going, and I discovered a bunch on their land. Well, and I used to go to school with them, but that's okay. I went and of course what you do, the bark's easy to get off. Take a knife down like this, and then you just start, and you can get your hands almost, and work yourself around, pull the bark off, put it in a.
You could sell this bark.
Yeah, but what you do, you would have to dry it. You have to dry your bark. It has to all have to be dried, and then you have to break it in small pieces, okay? And you know what happened to me one time? And then you'd have to take it to New Westminster, right on the river,
Waterfront.
right on the waterfront, and that's where you Brackman Kerr, B&K. Yeah, B&K. It's the only place you could take it. You'd have to take it on the bus, okay? And one time I thought, well, I'm getting a little older and smarter, so I thought, well, great, I've got all this. It's all dry, nice and dry, because that's the first thing they do. They test it. It breaks up good, because if it's not dry, it's heavier, right? You have to pay you more money, but so, and you'd put it on a roof or something. You'd put on or wherever to dry out. One time I thought, oh, I got some alder bark, heavy alder, and I mixed it, I put it in the bottom. So anyways, he lifted the sack. It felt a little heavy to me. Oh boy, I had two of them. And let's dump this out. He dumped it out. Well, holy Christ, there's goddamn alder bark mix with it. And he gave me shit, and I had to put it all back and take it all home, separate it.
Wow.
Because but I'm telling you, you'd have to take it in the bus, drag it for blocks down there. I remember that. 35 cents a pound, though. That was
Those
good.
trees still around, Helen?
Yeah.
Pardon?
You used to leave a about 2 inches right around the tree so you wouldn't kill the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
it,
wonder if they still harvest the bark off the trees now.
no, they don't bother.
I don't think so, no, but that's a good point. I don't know, I've never heard of it, but
I don't
that was
think
one of the ways you could make money.
I've never
And boy,
seen
if you
it.
could find a cascara tree the size you had it made, 'cause they were, but what you do so they wouldn't kill the tree though, you would leave a strip
No,
of bark
We used to leave around. strip.
around. I used to leave a long strip so the bark could grow again, so it didn't kill the tree. You know, you have to be honest about it.
Now tell me, other than harvesting this bark off these trees, which sounds interesting, what else did you do when you were a kid?
Oh
You
God,
did sports and stuff like that?
you know what else I did?
Yeah.
Austin Road was nothing but dirt and gravel, okay? Okay, up to Monday. And in the summertime, they would put tar on it to keep the dust down, blah, blah, blah. And they would put lots of tar. But you know what happened with the tar in the summer, the tar would get quite soft. We'd go out there with a sharp knife, cut the tar and chew it, like gum. And I went and told my mom she's good at keeping.
Substitute for chewing gum.
You
eh?
know what my mom said? Good, because it keeps your teeth clean. I said, what? Okay, so I kept doing it.
But you're not recommending that kids go out and do that now, are you?
Rice, no.
We've got a couple of PSAs I think we're working on.
Here's something that's more recent. I would say about 46 years ago. We've been in our house 47 years. Okay, we had the house. We bought the lot for $2,000, and we had the house made for $14,000. Nice house. We're still in it. This one, corner lot. And I was going to plant a hedge around it. Okay, and I thought, I'm not going to buy a hedge. So I went to Belcara Park and couldn't see any nice cedar hedge, wild cedar. So we thought, well, let's go up to Westwood Racetrack. They had a racetrack up there.
Plateau, Westford.
Yeah, they had a car racetrack. So I went up there, and guess what? There was goddamn hundreds of beautiful little trees like that. We still have not one of them died. We got all around the back.
So you just took those trees from the Westwood Plateau and carved
Yeah.
them down to that lot and
And I dug a huge ditch for them around the back. You should see it. It's still beautiful. And then I got some free peat from a vacant lot up by Foster.
yeah.
And I put that in there, and boy, it's a beautiful, nicest hedge around.
So what year would that have been then when you were building that
Okay,
house?
that was 47 years ago. Corner of McIntosh and Cottonwood, and that was our second house. We had a house.
So that would have been 1960s then.
Yeah, but we had a house after we got married when we were in the we've been married 57 years, and we're 80 now. Okay, so how, and then that's when we bought our first house on
Winslow.
Winslow, 1006 Winslow. And then,
So back in the 60s then, cost you to build a house 14,000 you were saying?
yeah,
And
and
then
it's, yeah,
2,000 for the lot?
yeah.
Yeah, so in those days then, it wasn't too difficult for people to get a single family home?
No, but see, the guy at the corner, he lived on Blue Mountain, and the guy at the corner, he had these 4 lots. You know, it was just all bush across it. And anyways, he had these lots for sale, I heard, so I went up and talked to him. He said, look, he said, we want $1,800 for the other lots, but the corner lot is $2,000. So I thought, well, shit, I might as well go with the extra $200, and that's why we got the corner lot. $2,000, and the house is still good.
And then we saw that house being brought from Fraser Mills
Yeah, and
in the
then
night.
there's no other houses around, and then one time we went up just to see how things were going up there, you know, just a vacant lot, and there's a house up there. And we thought, where'd this come from? You know what? Somebody packed it from Fraser Mills, one of the old houses. I got a picture, I got a photograph
Oh,
of
they
it.
took the house down and
On the
moved it?
boardwalk.
Yeah, they moved it from the boardwalk up to there. I got a photograph of it, because what happened a year ago, she sold the house, They got a brand new house, but I got a picture of the old house, and then I'm going to take a picture of the new one that they're building on it.
Do they just scrap the old one then, I guess?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, they just bulldoze it down and all.
Oh, really?
Too bad it would
But I got a
hurt, Joe.
picture. I got a photograph, a nice photo, real nice.
Nice.
Oh, I have. Yeah, all of a sudden this house is there, duh. Because it's 100 years old when they put it up there.
Wow.
So, well, by the way, another thing up, there's a hurricane in 1962, Hurricane Frida.
Okay.
You remember that?
Yes. What do you
Well, the golf course, of course, I was up there since I was 6 years old. It knocked down, I was at 1,500 trees at the golf course. And you know what? I had a movie camera, 35 millimeter, I guess. Is it?
Yep.
And I've got, in the 12th hole, we live right across from the road from it, the 15th on Blue Mountain, and I've got some movies of that. You should see it. The 12th hole, it was just crisscross with big, huge trees, right? You
It
couldn't,
just blew down.
yeah. And then the 13th tee, you couldn't even walk up the fairway. All big, huge trees.
Was there
all
much
o-
damage in the city as well, or just in the golf course?
Oh no, all over.
Yeah.
But see, the golf course, I mean, that was the biggest. I mean, at that time, there's still heavy forest there. And so I've got that on my 30. Well, I had some of that changed to 35 millimeters to the other ones. What do you call those smaller?
To video cassette or to?
Yeah, cassette.
Yeah, VHS.
Yeah. Okay, so that. In the flood of 1948, we were taken from school. I was in grade 10. We were taken from school and we were taken up to Colony Farm, and we had to fill sandbags and make. What we would do I remember we would fill up the boats, rowboats, and take them down to somewhere and then build dikes with them. And then what they would do, the people, the residents, the challenged people, they would cook, and then we'd eat there too, and they would do the cooking. It was very good.
So how far did that flood extend then back in?
Oh, that was a big flood.
It was right throughout Coquitlam then, or?
Oh yes, yeah, it was really bad. And you'd kind of have to volunteer, but I mean, we thought, hey, that'd be kind of fun to go down there and do it, so we did it. And we did that for, I guess, a whole solid week.
Got you to school?
Pardon?
It got you to school?
Oh yes, oh yeah, no school. Yeah, got you
Yeah,
to
that's right,
school.
no school when it's flooded, eh?
Yeah, well, that was more important than school then, getting the dikes made, or the sandbagging the dikes.
So like, if you think back to those days when that flooding was going on, then I'm not an expert on dikes or anything, but there's a fair number right now along the Pitt River and that's.
Yeah, I know it's
None
still
of those dikes there then?
no. I mean, see, I guess what happens is that that they think, well, okay, now it's flooded, we'll fix it, and but then it keeps happening. I don't know why, but maybe what we did, it cleaned that up, but then what happens? Then it goes somewhere else.
Sure.
Every year, and that's the problem. But we really, I remember one time we were kind of having fun. We'd put there'd be 2 guys in the rowboat, okay,
Yeah.
and we'd get all these sandbags and put in the rowboat, and then it would be just about that much from the top. You want to get as many bags as you could in. We'd throw a couple extra bags, and one time we sank the damn thing. Oh, that was bad. I mean, it's nothing a lot. We shouldn't have done it. You know, let's sink it. So we threw 2 extra bags and we sank the boat with all the bags and the guys in it. But it wasn't, you know, it was safe where we were.
Well, you know what, you've been talking a lot today about all these disasters, you know, the floods
Yeah.
and the hurricanes and so on. But if you get down to a more mundane level, you're raising a family right now. How many children did you have?
We had 2.
Yeah,
We
2.
were-
Now, thinking about raising a family, so that would have been then back in the 60s, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So, what are your recollections of that? What was it like raising a couple of kids in the 1960s?
It was easy.
Yeah.
It was really easy, yeah, because the kids, I think
Easy
they
on?
understood,
Yeah.
you know, you wouldn't spoil them. I mean, like if you wanted to play hockey or ball, you could get your old skates on and go and skate. Now you need about $500 worth of the equipment, and your mom and dad had to take you here and there. Not years ago, it didn't cost anything. You just go and do it. That right, Helen?
Yeah, took the kids.
No
skating
kidding.
on
Now
Palm
it's a-
Lake and-
So it was easier to participate in games
Oh,
and sports.
way easier. Like golf. I mean, it didn't cost me anything. Okay, I caddied. I got 50 cents for caddying. I could go down to Westminster and buy my clubs at 50 cents. I still have them, wooden shaft. I learned myself. Now you got to get into academy and all this crap.
To be fair, you'd be pretty hard pressed to skate on Como Lake these days, though.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes. No,
we-
it was damn
we took
cold.
the
In
kids
fact,
in.
one of my friends, the only one I've ever known, Porky Madsen, he drowned skating there. He drowned skating. He
Yeah,
fell
yeah,
through.
14.
He fell through the ice. Porky Madsen when I
Well,
went to
the,
school.
winters, do you think winters were colder at all in those days compared to now?
Pardon?
Well, winter's colder. Did you get more ice and snow in the winter then?
Oh God, yes. Oh way.
They used to go up Palm Lake and clear the
Oh
snow
yeah,
off
yeah. You could go up there
skate.
every year and skate.
of the kids.
How long? Like, was there like a month that you could skate?
Oh yeah,
for?
month. Yeah.
And
Mind
then
you,
then you-
maybe not in a row, but it would be a total of a month
Mhm.
through the winter.
Then you went
Definitely.
up to Lost
But you're
Lake.
right, a good
So you
question.
must have had much colder weather in the winter, at least
Oh.
part of it then.
Well,
to achieve
oh,
that.
do you remember that house on Winslow? Christ, you couldn't even see the goddamn thing.
Yeah.
It was a rancher we had, our
Snow.
first house. But honestly,
Snow came
I've got
from the
photographs
river.
of that, and it's unreal how cold it was, and snow. You know, it is unbelievable. But you could do things then, and it didn't cost you all that money. You could buy an ice cream for 5 cents, double decker, from Ziegler's
When we were kids.
on Columbia Street and 8th Avenue, the
But
corner.
of course, wages would have been a lot lower, of course, though. So
The what?
wages were lower, so.
Oh, they
people didn't
were,
have so
but
much money.
still, I mean, you can still do things. I mean,
Yeah.
and you can get a job anywhere, not like now. And
So
but it's
even though wages were lower then, money went further, is that what
it
you're
went further. But the thing is, you're more satisfied to do ordinary things. Now people go on these expensive trips and all that, and that's what keeps their money's gone. You could seem to have fun doing other. We'd go to There's a good point. White Rock. We used to go to White Rock a lot with my mom and dad in the old car, and you'd think, well, you'd go across the Patella Bridge, right?
Yeah.
No. You know why? Because I remember when I was a little kid, you'd go across the train bridge, and because they were just building the Patella Bridge, and okay, there was a train, the little train bridge, and what it was, and you'd go across the train bridge because they'd have like planks. They'd have the rails, and then they have planks, and you could drive across. Of course, you'd have to wait and line up, and then they'll let you go. And I always remember looking up when they were building a Patella Bridge, they had these big nets. I was just a little person looking, and to catch people if they fell.
Oh, really?
And that's how you'd get. And you know what we would do? Once you get to White Rock, that was a place to go, boy. We'd go out and we'd fish off the pier, White Rock, right on the pier, and the bass used to come in. When the tide came in, the bass would come in. You could see them down there, and they'd feed off the barnacles, and you could catch them, and then you'd take them home and eat them. But one of the big things was when you're pulling them up all that 20 or 30 feet, they'd wiggle and wiggle, and you'd lose them, but because they'd wiggle off your hook, because you're just a little guy, you didn't have any professional hooks, but it was so much fun.
You mean in those days, people would think nothing of taking a fish home and having to fillet it themselves and get rid of the bones in the head and that kind of thing? We used to catch fish on one of the ravines up by Gatonsbury. There used to be a big ravine and a big stream going through. We'd catch fish there. We just scoop them, bring them home, put them in the bathtub, and let them float around for a few hours. Then Mom would kill them and we'd eat them. Oh, goodness me! You wouldn't want to be catching fish like that and cleaning them up now, would you, Helen?
No.
Happy to go to the supermarket now.
No, but it was fun. Wasn't it, Helen used to walk. She used to go to Millside School. I didn't know her then, but she doesn't think I knew her. But anyway, and she would walk from past schoolhouse. You live past schoolhouse, right?
Yeah.
She'd walk all the way down the Great One, right through the ravine, right to Millside School, and without being afraid, right through the trail, forest. No one would touch her.
Well, you had to.
And her mother came out in 1910 when she was 4 years old, Helen's mother, and Helen's mother, or her grandpa, built a log cabin from the logs of the forest right on Austin, up past, yeah.
We got a picture of it. I have.
We got photographs at home. I know somebody's going to come to the house because I got lots of stuff to show them. If they're interested, it's up to them.
My grandpa had a garden in front, and people that would go by a car event once in a while, they'd stop and get out and take pictures.
Yeah.
Pictures of the
Would they?
flowers in the house. Yeah.
And everybody had fruit trees in the garden because that's what you'd eat.
That's what we got for
And
Helen.
then, you wouldn't have to go. There's no store to go to, so you'd make your own. And you have chickens for your eggs and your meat.
So when did things really start to get developed in Coquitlam then, when you started having shopping malls and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I remember when they were starting the mall down there, the Lougheed Mall.
Lougheed Mall?
But I remember when they were just getting it prepared, like the foundation. And there was no Lougheed Highway years ago.
For excitement, we'd get in cars and go to Westminster.
Yeah, you'd have to go to Westminster for everything. For everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the buses, how many buses was there a day?
What did they call that bus?
We had a name for the bus.
Yeah.
And our friend, Mr. who drove it, Montgomery or Garrison?
No, it was Whitford.
Oh, Whitford. One of our.
Sammy?
Not
Sammy, no. His brother.
Yeah, he drove the bus.
His brother.
But it only went about twice a day, I guess.
Yeah.
No place to shop here. But when it started to develop, but we used to go up, we'd go up, first of all, you just play in your own backyard, I remember I caught the damn bush on fire, oh God, it burnt from Austin down to Rochester, the whole damn thing. It was in the middle of the summer, and we were playing with the fire, because my dad, when he was clearing the land down there on Austin by the golf course for the chicken. He worked in the mines apparently in Drumheller, Alberta, and he was a good blaster, dynamite. And I remember he'd clear the land himself, of course, and I'd help him as much as I could. But he would dig around a stump, and then he would plant his dynamite in there. And I would go up on the top of the hill, and I would stop the cars, and my other brother, older brother, he would go down the bottom and stop the cars, and all of a sudden, boom, we'd go down, and no kidding, he could blast the goddamn stump out, and it was just like, there, in a big hole.
Oh, it just came out quite clean.
Oh, I don't know how he did it.
Wow.
And you'd yell, fire, 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 that was the sound. And then we let the cars go by. I'm telling you, it was awesome. And we'd cut everything with a 6-foot falling saw, or 10-foot. And that's how we would.
Firewood.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, we had to cut the stumps up so we could get rid of them, but we would cut them for firewood. God, man, it was cool, man. I mean, really nice. And I do it all over. But you had a lot of fun too, didn't you, up where you were? And when you'd burn all your stumps, and of course you'd throw potatoes in there, roast potatoes.
Yeah.
You know,
The fire
oh yeah, and you're all black, and oh God, you just end up dirty.
They were good.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember doing that too.
And everybody you'd make your own slingshots, bow and arrows, and
BB gun.
and my older sister, when she was going with this guy, she bought me and my brother a Red Ryder BB gun. Well, my mom just about. Well, we liked it.
Yeah.
Red Ryder. That was cool. And we used to, what we used to do is, and then down, you know where the church is in Austin and Blue Mountain there?
Yeah.
Well, that used to be a gravel pit. It's a gravel pit you'd use for the roads. Good gravel. And then after they'd used it all, then it was a garbage dump. They'd use a dump, and then the policemen used to go down there and target shoot. And we used to get all the lead bullets, and the copperhead bullets. We'd dig them out of the thing they'd shoot when they're gone, use them for our slingshots. It was cool, man. It's amazing how I can remember that stuff, yet I can't remember what happened 3 days ago.
Yeah, well, that's the way memory goes. It's the bit from a long time ago lasts much
And
better.
by the way, the reason I'm talking this
Yeah.
way, the funny way, is I've been diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Oh, really?
So that's why I'm on medication now, but I'm not talking right. That's why. So just excuse me for that.
No worries.
Sound pretty good to me. Yeah.
Is that a recent diagnosis?
Well, no, what happened, what happened about 3 years ago, I was starting to dribble from my mouth and talking kind of side of my mouth. So I went to see this guy. Well, you got the signs of it. So he started me on this medication, and it worked. But then about 6 months ago, after all those time, it started up again. So I'm on the same medication, but only higher strength.
Yes.
Yeah, higher dosage.
Good luck with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, I'm not afraid of it. And then before that, I was discovered I had a pain in my side. So I thought I'd better get a scan. It happened for years and years, and then I had lymphoma.
Oh, really?
So the scan discovered it, although the side never even wasn't a part of it. I just was lucky that they just got, so I had chemo like every 3 weeks, and of course that's why I'm tired too from that. So I
So
just
that was quite recent then, was it?
Pardon?
Was that quite recent then, that?
Well, no, that was 3 years ago.
Oh, right.
So now now I see him every 3 months, but I haven't had chemo for a year because I was getting every 3 months, but it just I don't know. I think the side effects has got me. But anyway, that's okay. I'm not bitching about it. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just
No.
telling you the fact that, what the heck. So I've been pretty lucky, and oh no. Well, there's another book. We're in that first book, okay, the big one.
Mm-hmm.
It shows my brother and my dad on one of the big stumps, trees they cut down.
Oh, the stumps that you were blowing up with the dynamite. Yeah.
And then, but there's an article of mine in there too. But and then there's another book came out a couple of years ago, and that's kind of cool. I know some of the people that are in that one too.
Was that the Then and Now book, or
The what?
was that Coquitlam Then and Now?
Yeah, that's right.
Nice
Yeah,
book, yeah.
and I like that book because it starts years ago and it works up to the present.
That's
I
right.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've got that.
Yeah.
And
Nice book.
Port Moody just released one actually too.
the what?
Moody.
Port Moody
Port
just
Moody?
released one last week.
Yeah.
Oh, did they?
Time, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of nice because
Yeah.
I mean Millardville was something else,
You know, when
and that's why they brought them here from Quebec for Fraser Mills. And you could either everybody worked at either Fraser Mills, Pacific Veneer, or the veneer plant, or the cordage, where they made rope. Okay.
And Port Moody too.
Well,
The mill in Port Moody.
yeah, the Thurston Fabal.
Similar, yeah.
In fact, and then they had the BC distillery. That was the big ones, But Thurston
And you
Fabal.
worked at the distillery, right, Helen, eventually?
Mm-hmm.
How long did you work there?
About 10 years
Yeah,
before we had
you
Royal
burnt.
Brandy.
Helen burnt the school down to get out of it so she could go to work.
Oh, dear.
No, you started when you
What,
went.
what did they make in the distillery?
Oh.
All kinds of different liquor.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a big distillery.
Huge. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of
It was
girls that worked there.
Seagram's, and then of course they consolidated, and they shut it down. They made everything back east. But it
Oh,
was
it all went back east of it.
yeah. And your mum worked there.
Yeah. My
And
mom,
that's
my
why
cousins,
Sapperton really,
Andres.
Whole family worked there, eh?
yeah, and Sapperton really liked it because everybody would go up there for lunch, and you went up for lunch and visit
Buy
stores.
things in the
They
store.
eat and buy things at the different stores. And when it closed, I think it hurt them business quite bad. Up there.
I was going to say, like, what we would do when we were young, we would walk all the way from schoolhouse, and we walked all the way up to Lillian Road. I don't know if you know where that is.
No, I don't actually.
Lillian. And then there was a trail that went down to Port Moody, because my cousin lived right at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
And we used to stop at the old water tank. There was a wooden water tank. It was Coquitlam water tank. And we used to get drinks there. People would leave tin cups, forever who wanted drinks. And it was just all bush. There was a trail right down to Port Moody.
But then you used to check. Then you checked across the sand to that little store in Anmore.
Pleasant side.
No, Pleasant.
Oh,
The
Pleasant
Pleasant Side store. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
New
They'd walk right across the sand. You said, eh?
we walked across
Yeah,
the
straight-
flats, yeah.
Really? Water
We
went all the way
wait,
up.
we wait till the tide was out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for a store, we'd walk all the way over the Pleasant side to buy candy, and then we'd walk back before
Because
the
that
tide.
store must have been closed for many years, and the building's still there.
Yeah.
But
The building's there.
By the way, my wife has a nickname. It's called Survivor.
Don't-
No kidding.
Were the tides that much more dramatic in those days then? I can't
Excuse me?
imagine. Were tides more dramatic in those days? I can't imagine
I
them
don't-
walking across there.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I don't know. You know, if the tide wasn't out, well, then we go swimming
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
pool there.
But you could walk straight across when the
Yeah,
tide
Yeah.
was out.
we walked straight
You couldn't
across
do that
over
now.
the-
I don't think so.
I
No, no,
can't
you-
think I've ever seen it where it's just dry right across.
So there had been changes.
yeah, I guess in the
Yeah,
tide.
yeah, because-
Yeah.
Yeah, because you told me you walked straight across, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, we always,
It's usually quite a fair bit that's muddy at low tide, but I mean, I
Yeah.
can't think you could ever get across.
we just take our shoes off and just
Could you
walk right
really? Yeah.
across.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to try that now.
Yeah, it was fun.
So did you go to the Ioko site that used to be up there then as well?
The,
The Ioko sort of village or bowling
no,
site?
there wasn't anything there.
That
There
wasn't
was
even
just-
there.
That was all
no,
gone even then. Yeah.
No,
Well, I guess that was probably what 19th century, right? When that was
Yeah.
done.
Mm.
So it was,
it was like a little trail that you could get up to
yeah.
the
I think
Pipeline side.
all those mills there along the inlet, they were gone a long time before.
Mm.
you
Yeah,
guys were-
they used to
That
be
is the
chicken up.
Thurston Faval, that's the one in it. Cedar Mill, right? Thurston Faval?
Yeah, that's
Mm.
right.
Yeah, I remember my friend, Bert Wood, God rest his soul, he passed away, but he did not like school. And his dad had one arm. And anyways, Bert said, I want to quit school. And his dad, no, you go to school. So no, Bert said, I'm not going to school. So when he turned 16, his dad said, okay, you can quit school, but I'm going to get you a job down at Thurston Faval, and you're going to work. And they said, no problem. He gets down there, and then he bought some property up there in Coma Lake.
Coleman Lake,
Christ, he wealthy as hell when he passed away.
Really, this is the guy that never went to school now.
Yeah, that's right. You could do it those days.
Yeah, you couldn't do it now, eh?
Yeah, he wouldn't go to school, and he was so happy. He said, Dad, I don't care. I'll work down the mill. You're gonna. And you know what his dad used to do? He lost his arm in the mill, and he could make cigarettes, roll cigarettes, with one hand, the whole nine. And he used to have goats, and he'd have goats and pigs and chickens. He lived just up the road from about on the other side, the north side of Austin, about 6 houses from the corner. He's 4 down from us. And he'd have a little shed. So I remember one time we were in there, Bert Wood, his son, and myself, and he's rolling a cigarette, and he had a goat. He had a goat in there. He made a cigarette. He gave it to the goat. The goat's holding it like that. Then he lit it, and then the goat chewed the whole thing up and swallowed it.
Oh,
You know what he used to do? No kidding. He used to have an old Model T, kind of a truck. He had goats and pigs. He'd take a goat up into the bush, just behind his place, and he'd have he'd have a 2x4, bigger than a 2x4 plank across 2 trees. He'd tie up the goat. He'd get a knife,
Oh, he'd slaughter them up there.
slaughtered him.
That's what he would do.
yeah, they
The
used to
slaughtering
do a
him.
lot of that,
And
slaughtering up there.
and one time he had a big police dog, and he had it tied up in the front yard. And he told all us kids, he said, don't go by the dog. Well, I remember I was small, but my sister come running home one time, my older sister. She was bit by the dog, right through there,
Ooh.
bit. My dad went up to see Mr. Wood. He told him. He said, I told you not to go around the dog. And he just took an axe or a shovel and just went out, killed the
Killed the
dog.
dog. Oh,
No kidding. We said, don't, no. But I told you. I'm not kidding you. That's the way it was.
goodness me, what things that people would do then.
There used to be a little church kind of across from the,
Is there a washroom in
yeah.
here?
Yes, there is.
We're down to about 2 minutes on tape, too,
Okay.
as well.
okay, there's a church by where the Safeway is now, a little church, that's where we used to go. I still have my My card has got a star every time. Little United Church, little gray church. Yeah. And I went until my about.
What about the little white one on us and the little white church?
I can't remember that one.
The little white church. Well, you used to go to it all the time.
The gray one. It was gray.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, it's very good. And
But
then
it was
and
fun.
It didn't
I'm telling
hold
you.
very many people.
I'm so glad we stayed. You know, really, 'cause it was cool. And some of the school kids, oh, Ralph Tilson, he'd fight the teacher because we had to stay in one night at class detention. He said, you got to go and feed his rabbits. And Mr. Sheely, I remember him, he said, no way you're staying. I'm going to go and feed my rabbits. No. I said, you know what? He tackled the teacher, threw him down, ran down the stairs.
Oh,
Feed his rabbits.
my goodness me, the school, the principal must have had something to say about
Oh.
that.
Well, what they do now, what you do, very easy, just you wouldn't let them back into school.
Expelled,
Yeah, expelled for the remainder of
do
the
that
year, or
anymore.
for 2 or 3, you know, and that's the way to do it, really. No, probably you just don't come back to school.
Yeah, you don't have to convince me, but I guess the way.
Well, I'm
the world's
telling
a
you,
bit
it was so
different.
much fun. Yeah, Millardville, that's quite a place, boy. Everybody was related to each other.
Okay, you need a washroom break, right?
Please.